Welcome to the Kitsap Matters podcast. In each episode, we discuss the people, places, and things that make Kitsap County unique, covering local entertainment, restaurants, business, government, and anything else we find interesting, troubling, or just plain amusing. A brief disclosure, this is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation. Hi, you're listening to the Kitsap Matters podcast. I'm Kevin Campbell. I'm here with my co-host, Christine Campbell.
Hey.
And we're excited to have with us today Erin Murphy on the show. Erin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So now, if you're familiar with Peaks Financial, you've probably heard of our SAIL formula. This process is all about the key parts of our planning philosophy, with the first four letters of formula, FORM, representing family, occupation, recreation, and money. It's all about what matters most to most people and what you can actually control. What's fun about our planning approach is that it provides a great outline for interviews like this today. So today we're going to be diving into Erin's story and what matters to him. So let's jump in and get started. Erin, again, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard the podcast, typically what we talk about is kind of that exact following that form outline: family, occupation, recreation, and money. So we'll hit a little bit on each of those. Tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up here in the wonderful town of Poulsbo, and a little bit about your family.
Absolutely. Again, Erin Murphy. I own ADM Architecture here in Poulsbo, but I grew up most of my life in Vancouver, Washington, across the river from Portland. Came up to the University of Washington. That's where I went to college, 92 to 96. Came out with an architecture degree and started working in Seattle. And I now am married, remarried, so blended family. We have 4 teenagers, all right dead on the high school forefront.
Right?
Well, there's a big grocery bill.
I know we're friends on Facebook, and I see your Facebook feed, and I think you have more than 4 children. It seems like you have like 70.
Yeah, they seem to multiply when I'm not looking. Yes, you're right. The grocery bill feels like the Costco pallet.
Right?
Sure,
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's the second mortgage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at least I do know a little bit about your family because I have actually seen your wife Renee perform at our lovely Jewel Box Theater, which all of you listeners may remember. We've had Mr. John Ackenhusen here talking about Jewel Box Theater, and boy, she got some talent. I know she's also local in one of our schools. She's a principal of which one?
Yeah, she's vice principal at Marcus Whitman in
Gotcha.
South Kitsap. And Renee grew up in Ephrata on the other side of the mountains. And then when I met her, she lived in Port Angeles. And I said, if I took a bus from Boston, you'd be the second to the last Greyhound stop. Could you maybe get a little closer into town? That's part of how we agreed that she would move toward us. And now we're both here in Poulsbo.
That's awesome. So 4 kids, and they're all high schoolers.
All high school.
Right, so you're exhausted.
A little bit.
Yeah, so thanks for taking the time to be here on the show, because I know how busy you are, and they're all involved. All of your kids are involved in sports, athletics, all kinds of stuff,
Lots of things.
Band and theater, and it seems like everything.
Noah's into welding, and
Right.
yeah, they all have their own special thing.
So tell me, speaking of family, what's the best thing about being a dad?
Right now, knowing very little compared to the rest of them. Yes, I'm actually the poster child of the sandwich generation.
Right? Yeah.
And also the dumbest I've ever been.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing.
4 kids that know it all.
Yep.
You will. I bet you'll get smarter over the next few years.
I've heard. I'm not sure I see the light at the end of the tunnel just yet.
So, what do you think is an important lesson you learned from your parents?
Work ethic. Honestly, my grandfather was actually my first boss on a Christmas tree farm. I used to drive to Banks, Oregon at 6 a.m. so that I could play baseball in the afternoon. And
Wow.
but both my parents are entrepreneurs by nature. My dad in the kind of IT and software side, and mom wrote programs around Lamaze and childbirth as an RN that she took national. So
Wow.
been around it.
Awesome. And so what lessons did you learn, have you learned, and either through your family, through otherwise, that you're passing on to your own kids, or you hope to instill in your own kids?
Yeah, I'd probably say the biggest one is work ethic,
Yeah.
To
It's
show
huge.
up and
Yeah.
put in the time. If you've read Outliers, kind of the rule of 10,000 hours,
Right? Little
right?
Malcolm
Whether it's
Gladwell.
piano or
Yeah.
tennis or, right, that
Golf.
you've got golf. Yes.
I think
including
golf,
the go backward to
I
go
don't-
forward.
I'm not sure golf is only 10,000 hours. No. I think you might need more.
I'm
At least
gonna
I
work
do.
on my 10,000.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you became an architect. So you came from a family of entrepreneurs, tech side, and that kind of thing. So how did you end up picking architecture?
For me, actually, back in high school, when you're talking to a career counselor, I love math right up until calculus. Calculus made no sense to me, totally ethereal. Got through it my senior year, but, trig and algebra and all that. And I was the guy whose peaches were covered in blue ink. I just was never not drawing. So I kind of went, okay, math up to calculus, so engineering's out, I think. But what do I do with this drawing thing? And that's when we started talking about it. And I picked UW knowing that I wanted to apply to the architecture school.
Awesome.
Well, I have seen some amazing things that ADM does, and something that
Yeah.
I'm really excited about, and that I'm just on fire about how you help families stay in their homes and plan your architecture with aging in mind, so that people can stay independent longer. Well, tell us a little bit about that. And I know you've been interviewed and you've been featured in some major publications, very well known. What was it, Forbes?
Forbes was the most recent. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've been doing that for 15 years at ADM. We've actually started another company called Forever Home, which is to teach what we know about aging in place at a national level. And
Kind of define for the listeners, what is aging in place, and what is this kind of movement?
yeah, so basically, 95% of our housing stock was built by a spec builder, right? And they designed for first and second time home buyers for the most part. So they were not trained, and they inherited a business from 80s, 90s, and dad's spreadsheet, but it didn't really think through what we're actually going through right now with 10 to 12,000 people turning 65 every day. By 2030, there's going to be more 65-year-olds than 18 and under.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
so
amazing.
housing isn't ready, and that's a personal passion of mine. I watched my grandmother go through osteoporosis and Alzheimer's in a split-level home in Portland, Oregon. The house was broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot. I know back from my younger years in residential appraisal, you can put a lot more space in a two-story, but the market value in a single floor plan so that you can stay in the house longer. I know as I have aged, my knees have gotten quite a bit worse than what they used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true for everybody. You know, I've had shoulder surgeries. I've torn my Achilles, and you look up those stairs going, what am I doing right now?
So, and you and I were talking the other day. You actually have, if I and correct me on this because I'm sure I'm going to butcher it. But I believe you mentioned that you actually have a development getting ready to start.
We do.
Where you're working with a developer. You're the architect working with a developer, and it's going to be the first development of its kind where everything is designed as aging in place.
Yeah, and future flex, which is a term I've trademarked regarding the specifications for a house, that it could be home office turned into mother-in-law, turned into able to handle a caretaker, right? And that's all we're trying to do is make your house a little more Tetris-like from a plug-and-play by chapter.
So that whether you're a young family starting out or aging in place, that house will be able to accommodate those needs,
Right.
and that you're not going to have to then sell the house, move, relocate, and as for example, if you have if you need a walker or a wheelchair or whatever, that you're able to age, as you say, age in place.
Right. And it's really about investing in yourself, investing in your future freedom to decide. Because typically the phone call we get is mom fell and broke her hip. She's going in for surgery. She's got 8 weeks of rehab. When she gets home, she needs a different house. I can't. That's lipstick on a pig, right? That's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. That's not planning.
And especially right now with supply chain issues, and as busy as builders are and construction teams and all that, try getting that done in 8 weeks.
Right. I know 20 contractors. I promise you 10 of them are booked for 2 years right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yes, planning ahead and investing in your future, because the fall in the hospital and the maybe never come home, go to assisted living with nursing care, you're looking at $8 to $10,000 a month, and that's not your mortgage payment, which means it's probably not the financial outcome you wanted.
Right.
When if your house was appropriately designed, you could go back home.
Right. Or maybe have avoided the fall altogether and stayed independent longer, where you don't want to move from with your pet, your garden, your family, your neighbors, your memories.
Especially as a community. And if you're building a community, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah. And that's my big picture vision, right? What is that? The GHAG or the BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal would be to actually disrupt the entire building industry.
Wow.
But you start with one developer who, he came to me from Vegas. He had done 13,000 doors in his life, and I sent him home with the book we wrote. Came back a week later, and he said, throw away my plans. We're doing your stuff.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
And it's happening right here in Poulsbo.
And it is.
That's super cool.
That is awesome.
We're ground
We're
zero.
so lucky.
We are.
We
Ground
are so
zero of the
lucky.
revolution.
Yeah.
So what's been the most challenging aspect of all this for you?
As far as, the forever home aging in place piece, it's psychology 101. It's denial.
Right.
I'm not getting older. I'm never going to get old.
Nobody's a stat until they became one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a lot of undoing that. The cool part, though, is that people like Christine are the powerhouse buyer of this generation, right? I mean, the 50-plus female consumer is typically the adult child making decisions about parents, boomers, and seniors, and also thinking about your own future. So, that's my ideal client, quite honestly. And that's what we're studying, is how do you connect and engage and build trust and rapport with the boomer consumer and the adult child.
Interesting. So that's super cool. I mean, it's going to be really fascinating to watch this. Obviously, some exposure in Forbes probably didn't hurt.
No, that was okay. I'd do it again.
Well, they called.
Yeah.
So, obviously we've transitioned from the family questions into the occupation questions at this point. But and some of the questions that we have here as kind of a guideline are actually just great for this. Is like, so how do you see your industry changing over the next, say, 20 years? And how do you see, obviously, part of your goal is to disrupt your industry and change your industry over the next 20 years. So not only are you planning on being in your industry, you're planning on trying to be an influential
an industry leader.
Yeah. And, we've...
A thought leader.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going. Under a different name, Forever Home's a rebrand of something we've been doing at ADM for 15 years. Well, I've also been on stages from Chicago to TV in Tokyo talking about all of this. Going to Japan was actually fascinating because at the 2014 Home Health Expo, Honda and Toyota had, 7 different ways that you could go from wheelchair to shotgun in the car.
Wow.
Right? So they're 15 years older than we are per capita. And
Wow.
so they are forced by nature to guinea pig some of these issues.
Mobility.
Well, that's good for us.
It is good for us. But what's happening right now, there's a spoon out there that will offset the shaking of Parkinson's, and you can have cereal with milk and not spill. Okay, you didn't know that,
No,
did you?
I had no idea,
Okay.
but that's pretty
Right,
amazing.
so at the R&D product level, there's a bunch of people working in silos. Our goal at Forever Home is to bring the silos together and
that's
play
great.
quarterback and concierge. And yes, so over time, my hope is that the builder starts to get it. You brought this up, Christine. Ask your real estate agent who's flying off the market as a product. Mm-hmm. It's single story, followed by at least master primary bedroom on the main floor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And Atlanta's using something that they're finally starting to work on called the visitability movement. this is where at the jurisdictional level, you either lead with carrots or sticks, right? You either find somebody for not doing it or you incentivize the developer to do it. What I like about visitability is that maybe Christine doesn't want to talk about her own mortality. I'm on this way. But if I said, well, Janet has a cane, why can't she come to Christmas? Oh, that's a
so I was about to ask, what do you mean by visitability? That's what I was getting to.
I've taken it away from your mortality issue and made it about equity and inclusion, right? Very huge topics, post-COVID and Floyd and DEI.
That's why we have the ADA.
Right? That's how it started. It was a civil movement, and it became law in 1990. And
so it's almost the idea of your home should be almost ADA compliant.
Yeah, it's actually kind of an old baseline. If I'm going to do it, I want to talk to and this back to my point about not working in silos, right? If you said, let's redesign my home so I can live here to 90. Well, I want to talk to, guess what? Your financial planner, your occupational therapist.
By the way, if you don't have one,
Oh, that was weird.
Here at Peaks Financial, right?
There's an example.
Right.
Yeah. But, right?
Sorry, shameless plug.
It's okay. I handed it. It was a softball. I lobbed it in. But I want the whole team there.
Yeah.
More brains, more better
for
the solution.
So you bring together, like the home we have right now is a 2-story. Yep. And we knew when we bought it that we may end up at some point having family, some of our older family staying with us.
Correct.
And so on the main floor, all the master and everything is upstairs, but on the main floor is there is a bedroom and a bathroom and everything on the main floor, which is served well because my grandmother has lived with us. She's not currently. She's at Martha and Mary just down the street, which is an awesome facility and takes great care of Grandma. But one of the challenges is, so while the house has that, it also has steps coming up the front.
Without a rail.
And that's the thing is they didn't even put a railing on any of the steps. None, and that's very true of all the houses in our neighborhood. Most of them have steps to get to, because that's built on a hill. Most of them have steps to get up to the door, and none of them have railings on them. Not a single one.
Right. So you watch a plat get developed, right? And here's actually, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, okay? I own 10 acres of forest. I'd like to retire. How do I sell that? I plat it, which is create parcels, but my sellable product is how many parcels can I get, right? So except for the playground and the storm detention pond, I'm going to make as many as I can because that's what I sell.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Therefore, I made as many as small as legally possible at the civil engineering design level. Okay, and then I'm out. I sold it, right? Christine bought 8 of the lots. But her, as a general contractor, her sellable product is heated square feet. But aside from having roads that fire trucks can get down, there's no other thought about the fact that visitability starts at the curb. And how do I even get to the front door?
Right.
It's a bigger challenge. And it's not really when you can, dirt's harder to find. Perfect dirt is not really findable.
Right.
So yes, it's an awareness thing, which is why we're in the retrofit space. We all bought something. Now we need something different because longevity with technology and medicine is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? You guys know this. The word retirement does not have a real firm definition anymore.
It does not.
No, it does not.
We talk often more about the work optional lifestyle.
Yeah.
About it at some point, and we have this conversation a lot with clients, is that we have clients who are already retired. We have clients who've got their retirement date set, or carved into their desk, or they've got a countdown timer going or whatever. Sure. And then we also have a lot that are more work optional. Like, and you and I've had this discussion before, like, I don't really intend on retiring. I know you don't. It's kind of like that's some nebulous thing off in the distance.
Wouldn't know what to do with myself.
But I also recognize that I need, at some point, you need to be ready to retire, right? Because you may get retired medically or whatever may happen where you may have to retire. So, but you're very right. Retirement is, and also previous generations, like if you go back to the greatest generation, the silent generation, the greatest generation, retirement was, you hunker down and you go into no spending mode, right? Retirement is something you do a few years before you pass away.
Right.
And then you do as little as you actually kind of go into this mode of penny pinching and doing everything you can as cheap as you can.
Make it last mode.
Make it last mode. And that is not what people want these days, right? Most people want the same, or if not better, lifestyle in retirement than what they have while they're in their working
Watch
years.
this. Let's quiz Kevin. When was the retirement age created?
We already know. We do.
Yeah, I know you know.
I'm trying to remember the year, but I believe it was 1931, I think.
Okay.
4.
I thought it was 1889, the first time they came up with the retirement.
Oh, that could very be. I'm actually thinking
gotcha.
of I'm thinking of Social Security.
Okay, yeah. I've in my research related to being on stage, I heard the first time they set a retirement age, it was, I don't know, I think it was 52. It was in 1889. The government set it. How long were you supposed to live then? 47.
Probably. Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Same was true of
right?
when Social Security came out.
Right. Hell of an insurance policy to set up that
Yes.
the benefit comes out after your death.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. But to your point, right? We're used to, I only had 5 years left when I'm done earning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
you got 35.
You get
Yeah,
35, exactly.
exactly.
It's a whole different
It's a new ballgame.
game. It is.
Yep.
And no
same.
different than you guys have adjusted, housing needs to
Yeah.
adjust.
And we knew when we bought this home that this was not a forever home.
Yeah.
And it's just not, because
It's
while
not
there is a
designed for
bedroom
us to be
downstairs,
forever.
it's not a master suite downstairs.
Right.
Um,
And what
It's
you
too
need
small.
with 2 kids is not what you need with
Yeah.
no kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch and see what goes on with this. And now, what about is what you're talking about, the forever home concept? Is this possible in multifamily?
It can be, right? So I've designed a bank in town, right? I've designed a 150-unit apartment building by PLU that we just permitted. Now, an apartment and multifamily at a large scale, there are already rules in place about people of differing mobilities, right? Type A and Type B units, and Type A is fully accessible. You can turn a wheelchair, you can side transfer in a shower with no threshold. So yes, at any level beyond single family, that type of thing can be incorporated. Again, for me, it's add more team, get better results. I would want to know, I can tell you where to put blocking behind the walls to set up for a grab bar per the ADA. That has nothing to do with, did Kevin's dad have a stroke? Did everybody go numb on their left side? Right? Women are stronger in hips and legs, thighs. Men are stronger in shoulder and arms. That's not ADA. That's me talking to you about your solution.
Right.
Right. Wow. So,
It's going to be really interesting.
I know, right? So I can't imagine that you have any free time given the circuit that you're on and given the work that you do and the amount of productions and performances and all 4 kids doing something different. When do you have time to do anything for yourself, and what is it you do for yourself?
This is the transition into recreation.
Oh, we're headed to recreation now.
Yes.
Good. Well, I can combine the two, right? Playing tennis with the senior that's on the tennis team, although keeping up's a challenge nowadays. I taught him, and now he just embarrasses me. But
Right.
Snow skiing, walking the dog, I find you guys probably do too, big decisions that happen with your spouse. It's about the 6th dog walk that we've talked about something that it flushes out. We're like, oh yeah, that works, right? We live in a beautiful area. I mean, there's nothing better than Paulsbo in the fall.
I love it.
It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
We have a boat at Brownsville Marina, learning how to do saltwater. The kids were younger. We thought, they might ski or wakeboard no, it was all inner tubing. So we're like, let's move to that one that maybe we could go up to the San Juans in.
Oh, yeah.
If they want to get in the water on a tube behind it, we can, but it's no longer my primary goal.
Let's see you hang on to the San Juans.
Right, yeah. We'll be there in 8 hours. Never mind the slack tide going through Deception, but,
It might be a little bumpy going through
could be.
Deception Pass.
I might not see
just
you
hold
for a
on
minute.
tight.
Now, that would be a whole nother level to see
Wouldn't that
somebody
be
tube through
fascinating?
Deception Pass.
Oh, my gosh. I'm
Yeah, that'd be
I don't
horrifying.
think that's a
Somebody
smart
do that.
idea.
It's not a good
No,
idea.
not at all.
Yeah,
Not at
I'm
all.
just seeing a log, a drifting log coming
And
through
the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Coast Guard, yeah. Yeah, lots of
Right.
flotation is going to be needed on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for ski season. Got a couple friends. One has a cabinet by Crystal, and then I've got a buddy that he tries to make me go midweek because he's retired and I'm not. Let's avoid the lines. I have a job.
Right?
But,
And 4 kids. I have a job and 4 kids, right?
they don't want to hang out with me anyway.
Right,
We're
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
teenagers. Yeah.
Checkbook
yeah.
and Uber. That's it.
Yeah.
So-
Ours are like roommates now.
Right, yeah, as they get a little bit older. So, speaking of family and activities, like what do you guys like to do together as a family?
So, probably in the last 5 years, COVID aside, we travel as a family. We really kind of wanted to show the kids before they're thinking about colleges that we took them to Belize, Chicago, D.C., Boston. Just there's more than Kitsap County. We hope you come home.
Right, yeah.
Right? But,
Kitsap County's pretty great.
pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
You and I can say that. Been to
Yes.
100 places. This
Right.
is pretty sweet.
That's
Exactly.
the funny thing is we see a lot of here in Kitsap, Poulsbo, Bainbridge Island, is that kids graduate and they want to get out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and this is true I think of everywhere. Right, you graduate and you want to go somewhere else, but then they do come back.
Yeah.
Right, because it's just a pretty great place to live.
It is.
Exactly. So let them go out, experience it, and
Right.
hope they
And
know
realize,
where to land.
and
Yes.
let them go find other things, and then understand why we all live here.
Right.
Yeah.
After I get smarter.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Well, you'll be much smarter at that point.
Yeah.
like,
I'm assuming the
now I know.
absence creates the education.
Right.
Funny how that
I'll
works.
study while you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you do, interests or hobbies that would surprise us, that would be unique?
I'm a closet choir boy.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I might say that I would not be that surprised because I have heard you at the Pig, maybe on a karaoke night.
That's
Yeah.
if it leaks out, that
leaks
tends
out.
to be
Yeah.
Or the
I
Ale
could see
House
that.
up in Kingston.
Oh.
There I've got a
nice.
folder with my songs in them. Yeah.
Really?
Sweet.
Oh yeah. Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Borderline Cliff Clavin up there.
Oh, that's fabulous. I think we might need to make a stop.
We may have to make a stop at
we
the
could
Ale
go
House.
together.
Yeah.
It's a scene up there.
So, so now we're going to transition to money and a few more questions, and we'll start wrapping this thing up.
Sure.
So, as we think about money, who or what have had the biggest influences on your financial life,
Probably.
other than me as your financial advisor?
Right.
Oh, by
Well,
the way,
I would have led back there,
yeah.
but
full disclosure, Aaron is also a
yes.
client.
By
so.
the way, I think I'd go back to my parents and my grandfather. Although grandmother had her deterioration, we talked about that as far as housing goes.
Yeah.
Carl remarried at 89.
Wow.
My dad told him, as the fiduciary, responsible eldest child, that we should probably sell our business at 94. He said, "Cool. What are we buying next?" So I don't. Case in point, I don't know the word retirement, nor was I raised on it. Yeah. So, my father, very different opinion. I learned to build wealth through real estate. My mom and dad retired just fine selling a business and doing stock. And his opinion was to, do index funds. Or it doesn't matter what the point, but it's fun for me to watch different people get their different ways.
Right.
Renee's father owns a circle in Eastern Washington and gets a check twice a year for more than lots of people you and I know make.
Yeah.
But he grew up farming. He was, Southeast Washington DNR head, right? So it's what you know and what you learned. But my parents were frugal. I went through starting businesses for Dad. I also try to model him in the way that, hey, he got up at 2 a.m., but he was at my baseball game at 2 p.m.
Yep.
as a business owner.
Yep.
But, start of school, I had a Payless Shoe Source budget. And, Aaron, you can go mow lawns for Nikes. Right? They had a budget.
Yep.
I learned that very, very early. Right? And just not stopping earning while you're still enjoying work.
Yeah.
Back to the cliche,
Yep.
right? If you can go to work and be in love with what you do, you don't work.
Yeah. And if you have goals that are beyond what you're making, then find another way to make more if you want that.
We do have a child who loves, I don't know that he has bottoms in his pockets because I have yet to see money land and stay.
Right.
But yeah, that's the lessons we teach is, hey, we'll contribute this much. What are you going to do to bridge that gap? Get creative, right?
Yeah.
Caden wanted to go to Peru, so for 8th grade, we said, here's how much we'll pay. Looks like you're $700 short. Spent the summer handing out flyers in the neighborhood for weeding and mowing. Problem with that, there's grandparents in the neighborhood. $100 for a 20-minute job. I'm like, you are killing the value of money for me at my house. I'm now mowing my own lawn because he'd rather mow yours. That was tough. That was a hard one.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Grandparent budgets. That's different.
Right.
That is different.
That's funny. Yeah.
I remember throwing newspapers because I needed to get something when I was a
Yeah,
kid. You know,
yeah,
I either worked for my dad, or if he didn't have work for me, I figured something else out.
Yeah, I started working in elementary school. Same thing as
an elementary schooler.
Okay. I wasn't working in the school.
Okay.
I mean, when I was in elementary
You were
school.
in elementary.
Yes.
Right. Because you wanted spending money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Well, that's a whole nother story. But yes. So when I was like, gosh, I think 5th or 6th grade, and me and my brother both ended up with newspaper routes and significant ones. And it wasn't just like a little thing. We used to load. Literally, we would load a truck.
Load it up.
Yeah. And it was work. It was a lot of work.
I think I was in 4th grade picking berries.
Yep.
At my buddy's farm.
That's tough work.
And getting in trouble for having berry fights, and they didn't quite make it in the flat.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've got one more question, and then Chris gets the last one.
Cool.
So what would you consider like the best kept secret in Kitsap? What is either something that even locals wouldn't know about, or like when you've got guests in from out of town, you take them to see something that's really cool or something very unique, whether it's a restaurant or a place or an activity or whatever.
That's a challenging one. Well, I'd say right here in town right now, something kind of cool that no one knows about is the Velvet Underground.
Right?
Oh, that sounds.
I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to find out by asking your friends and neighbors.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with it.
I know.
We're aware of it, but yes, it is kind of an unknown thing. It's a little known thing.
It's a little known thing, right? And also, there's a
We've not been yet.
Okay. I
It's
think
on my
coming
calendar,
up.
though.
I believe it is
It's on
coming
my
out.
calendar.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I will see you there. There's also an underground speakeasy style bar in town. It's a little more well known, but
There's at least
I think I
one.
found
If
it.
not,
I think
there's kind of
two.
almost two.
Yeah.
we'll talk off air. I don't want to give away
Right? Yeah.
too many
yeah,
secrets.
All right.
I'd say
So-
point, no point, right? If you're like
yeah.
brand new,
Yep.
sunny summer day,
Yep, that's beautiful.
getting up to the beach at the lighthouse is pretty
There's
amazing.
so much to do here in this place, and it is such a beautiful, wonderful place. So Chris gets the last question.
Should I
And
be
it's a
nervous?
two-part. Well,
No, I think
it's
you're
kind
going to
of
handle this one
entertaining.
well.
Okay.
I bet you're going to do this one good.
The last question is the two-part. If you were to produce a reality TV series, what would it be called and what would the premise be?
Oh my goodness. Teen Swap.
That would be great. I can already tell what that one's about.
Although I don't know, right? Everything looks greener on the other side, does it not?
It does.
Right.
It does.
So I could regret that. I don't know, but that'd be a fun.
It would be interesting. It reminds me of a program that I think was on 60 Minutes recently. It had to do with not exchange students, international exchange students, but exchange students within the United States with going to different regions so that you can learn about how, regardless of where we're at, we're still in the same country. So I thought that would be kind of cool.
That is interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because the country is quite diverse. That's interesting.
Yeah. I didn't have to explain the premise of Teen Swap.
No, I got
Right,
that
yeah,
one right
Teen Swap's
away.
pretty easy.
The name gave it away.
little bit.
That's perfect name.
A little bit.
So that's it. It's another wrap for the Kitsap Matters podcast. Aaron, again, thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad you came out.
This has been interesting, and we'll talk to you next time on the Kitsap Matters podcast. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
A brief disclosure. This is a community-focused podcast, not a financial podcast, but sometimes financial topics do arise. And since the host is a licensed financial professional, we have to include the following disclosure in every episode. The strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it's in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Kevin Campbell is an investment representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corporation, a registered investment advisor located at 6020 East Fulton Street, Ada, Michigan, 49301. Peaks Financial is not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corporation.